This is episode 13 with special guest, Dr. Eric Zielinski. Welcome to My Kid Cures Cancer. My name is Ryan Sternagel, former regular guy turned dadcologist, cancer coach, and health advocate. Each week we'll talk to a new expert on a particular aspect of beating cancer or human optimization to bring you one step closer on your path to true health. Thanks for spending some time with us today. Now let's dive into this valuable, life-saving information which you're not going to hear about in a mainstream hospital. Alright friends, if you've been looking into natural health for more than 5 minutes, you've probably heard that essential oils can be very powerful tools in your kit. But once you start diving into all the conflicting information coming from sources on the internet trying to sell them to you, your friends and neighbors trying to sell these oils to you, that guy at church that tries to sell them to you, your dog trying to sell them to you, and so on, it can quickly lead many of us to throw up our hands and move on to other things. That's why I am so excited to have a guy on the show today who dedicates his research to essential oils, yet does not actually sell them himself. I think he may be the only one. Dr. Eric Zielinski has been on a mission to helping people enjoy the abundant life for nearly 15 years. Formerly trained as a chiropractor and public health researcher, Dr. Z, as he is commonly known, launched his online health ministry with drericz.com in June of 2014. Visited by more than 2 million people, it has become the #1 top-ranked, fastest-growing website dedicated to biblical health on the internet. Specializing in the therapeutic use of essential oils, more than 300,000 people have since joined one of 3 email newsletters, Essential Oils Digest, Biblical Health News, and his wife, Mama Z's DIY Tips, to learn how to safely and effectively use natural therapies. Dr. Z is an accomplished researcher with several publications, conference proceedings, and currently sits as peer reviewer for multiple journals. He lives in Atlanta with his wife and 4 children. And this was a really neat interview for me to record. If you have been following us, hopefully you know by now that we do try to make all of our health decisions looking through a biblical lens, and it was really nice to talk to someone who does the same. On this note, we started out with a good talk on how Eric uses this lens to guide the decisions he makes in his diet and lifestyle. We got into Eric's views on supplementation and how less is actually more often than not much, much more. And this was really cool as well. Eric spent a bit of time on the notion that a healthy organic lifestyle actually saves money as opposed to costing more as you might think, if you do it right, of course. We transitioned from the biblical view of healing to everyone's favorite medicine in the Bible, which is, of course, essential oils. Eric explained what they are, where they come from, how they work, and how we use them. He talked a whole lot about the amazing relief from the side effects of conventional treatment essential oils have been shown to provide. And of course, we got into all of the anti-cancer research being done on essential oils, along with actual cases of success Eric has seen, and what to look for in oils for all of these purposes. That being said, we are happy to have you here at My Kid Cures Cancer, where it is our goal to bring all sides of the discussion on how to heal cancer and be truly healthy to the same table to give you one place to tune into for the most well-rounded perspective possible. This is a show for people going through cancer, by people going through cancer, inspired by my wife Teddy and I's experience with childhood cancer, bringing our son Ryder from a stage 4 cancer diagnosis to the happy, healthy little boy he is today. If you aren't dealing with cancer and want to keep it that way, the show will likely be very helpful to you as well. We will get to Dr. Z's interview momentarily, but just a couple things to go over before we do, starting with our beloved disclaimer that the information you hear on this show is for informational purposes only and is not intended to be a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. One quick note, if you're watching or listening to this episode on the week of its airing, please be sure to check out the GMOs Revealed docuseries online. If you're still not quite 100% sure on why it's so critical for your family's health to be avoiding these things at all costs, or more importantly, if you want to be sure you're doing everything you can to avoid these things as they're hidden in just about everything these days, this is certainly how to find out about all of that. This is an issue near and dear to our hearts, as we have no doubt the health effects of GMOs are even worse on children than they are in adults. So if you want to be sure you're doing everything you can for your family's health, it's going to be playing August 22nd through the 30th and that's 2017. You can sign up and watch for it for free at mykidcurescancer.com/GMOs revealed. And if you are listening to this after the fact, not to worry, I'm sure they're going to be making it available for purchase as well. So again, that's mykidcurescancer.com/GMOS-revealed. Also, I of course want to mention the coaching program. If you are a parent of a cancer-fighting kiddo and think it would be helpful to have someone to talk and message with on a regular basis that's been there and has been doing nothing but researching this stuff for the past 3+ years now, we're here for you. You can find all the details for that on the Connect page of the website, and that is simply mykidcurescancer.com/connect. Lastly, would you like everything we've put out for the week, all the podcasts, YouTube videos, articles, and so on delivered right to your inbox? Well, you are in luck, because all you have to do is subscribe to our weekly newsletter where we talk about everything we put out for the week, any other anti-cancer tidbits on our mind, along with anything happening that we're interested in for ourselves, like that GMO series I mentioned. And you can do that right on the homepage at mykidcurescancer.com. And when you do, we will send you our short ebook, 10 Things You Need to Know If Your Child Has Been Diagnosed with Cancer, which I must say is pretty darn helpful for anyone going through cancer. All right, without further ado, let's get to the interview with our good friend, the man known as Dr. Z himself, Dr. Eric Zielinski. Eric, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Ryan, thanks for having me, man. You know, listening to all that, I'm thinking, are you making all that up? That's not me. I've been busy.
I know. Wow. That's just the summary going through your about page. You've certainly accomplished a lot in what seems like a relatively short amount of time.
Yeah, and you know what? I really give God glory. You mentioned something. Because I don't sell essential oils, it got me on a fast track really quick, and hope we could talk about that for just a minute. But yeah, I try my best to be a non-biased researcher and to share the therapeutic effects of how these precious plant-based compounds can help people, but just not essential oils. You know, the message is you can't live on McDonald's and the standard American diet and hopefully that your essential oil is going to cure you of XYZ. It's like taking one step forward, 2 steps back. So it's really a holistic lifestyle. But for a lot of folks, really, it's natural medicine. And so there's a lot we could talk about. But yeah, it's just an honor and a privilege to be on the show with you.
Yeah, no, and that's actually one of the things that you know, when we started our journey, it kind of turned me off. Turned me off, maybe a little too strong of a word, but I didn't put as much thought into essential oils as I should have right away, because on the one hand, you're hearing all these things about, shady practices of different companies and elaborate claims that aren't really, backed up by research or even testimonial or anything of that nature. And then on the other hand, you had a lot of people that seemed to be, like you said, kind of preaching them as a magic bullet cure, or you just overall health solution. Just take a few of these oils and you're going to be all right. And that, I knew enough to know that wasn't the whole story. So it actually took me a lot longer to get into essential oils than I should have, just for that kind of reason. That it's unfortunate.
I had a similar story. For me though, I just marginalized them as smelly stuff. I really did. I say this a lot, but I still laugh every time I say it, but I'm not going to go play football with my guy smelling like ylang ylang. You know what I mean? They're going to take my guy card away. And so my wife has been using these oils since she's been a teenager, and I've watched her, and I do every day. She does her thing. She has her ointments and her lotions and her potions, and she has her routine. And it was just like, I just thought that was something that her and the midwife did, and they got ready for her birth and other stuff, until I realized that the research is profound. And, I am a man of faith. I'm very much so. But things need to make sense to me. I mean, really, things need to make sense. And so, yeah, I was told that essential oils are plant-based medicine. It could help with XYZ condition. But unless it made sense to me, I couldn't jump into it. I understand the concept behind probiotics. I understand the concept behind certain supplementation. Go outside to get your vitamin D. Makes sense to me. But when it came to oils, I just didn't get it. until I really started diving into the research. And I've gone through I don't even know how many, I should have counted, but just there are thousands and thousands of research studies. I've written extensively. I've just finished a 78,000 word book. It's going to be coming out in the next few months, like a manuscript about essential oils and evidence-based uses of how to really heal with them. And that is what changed me, Ryan. That is what changed me. Then I started using them according to the research, according to people that I worked with, some of my clients and some of my patients. And I was sold. I get it. I got it. And like you, though, when I was going online, and I kid you not, and bless your heart, look, folks, if you're a distributor, if you're a blogger, keep on doing what you're doing. The problem is, though, the reality is, the elephant in the room is that everyone, 99% of everyone talking about essential oils on the internet are either selling a product or they're representing, which is fine. I appreciate capitalism. I'm an American through and through. But as a researcher, that's a financial bias. And so I realized, again, going back to Public Health 101, if I wanted to be a reputable resource on how to share information, I can't sell the products that I'm trying to teach on. Plus, it's illegal. I mean, it's flat out FDA will shut you down. And that happened to two of the largest essential oil companies a couple of years ago. And for those of you who know the story, you know what I'm talking about. The FDA threatened to shut down the largest essential oil companies because their distributors were talking about how essential oils could cure Ebola. Well, I don't want to get in that mess. So I have the freedom of speech to share what the research says. I'm not making drug claims, but at the end of the day, people are curing themselves. And so there's a lot to it. And that's one reason why, Ryan, I mean, more than, at this point, almost 2.5 million people have reached my website to learn how to use these things, because it's like, wow.
There's a lot out there on it, and that's what brought me around was the research, just digging into all the studies and saying, okay, there definitely is some merit to this. We just got to figure out the right way to do it, and off to the races. And all that being said, I definitely want to dive in, get into the weeds a little bit on some of the science and all that behind the essential oils. I know you're a big biblical health guy, and that's always something that's interested me as well. So I got a couple questions for you there. But first, just a little bit, we all have a story. It seems like everyone in this field, or making some sort of difference really online in the health field, came from, they all have an interesting story to tell. What brought you to be Dr. Z, putting out all these articles and videos and having all these people reaching your website?
Well, I just said a little bit about my essential oil story. What got me really interested in oils was when a client of mine, because I used to be a medical writer, I used to be a public health researcher, that's what I did for a living, right? And one of my clients commissioned me to write a series of public health reports about essential oils. So that's really what started me on the essential oil track. And when I was researching oils, it dawned on me that, again, we're going back to this bias, like a huge bias, that we needed a non-branded resource. So I came up and I shared the idea that I had to start an essential oil summit, an online event with a couple of my friends, and everyone said it couldn't happen because no one could talk non-branded. So for the first time ever, we got together aromatherapists, bloggers, distributors. We got together all sorts of people, chemists, doctors, healthcare professionals, and we decided to talk in a non-branded zone all about essential oils. And it was a global hit. Like 165,000 people attended that event, and it just launched my entire career trajectory in a different direction than I thought it was ever going to go. So that's really the nutshell of why I'm doing what I do, why I wrote the book I just wrote, why I'm working with the largest publisher in the world to share this information. Because, Ryan, the truth is, no essential oil book has ever reached the health market, ever. It's always been marginalized as essential oil or as aromatherapy. But, these books that we see all the time, Josh Axe's Eat Dirt. We have these, David Perlmutter's and Joe Mercola's. All these doctors' books are on the New York Times bestseller. No one has ever done one on oils before. So we're going to try to get this mainstream, even more than it is. But beside that, and I don't want to take too much time, and folks, you could check it on my website, really the details of it. But I'm doing really what I do because I'm on a mission to help people experience the abundant life. And whether it's essential oils, whether it's healthy eating, whether it's exercise, it's all about, I know what it's like being sick, and I know what it's like being well. And I had a dramatic transformation in my own spiritual walk, in my own physical, my emotional, my mental health, all dramatically changed about 15 years ago. And so I went from, suicide ideation, addicted to narcotics, to being where I am as healthy and clean as I can possibly be, and just trying to continue this message and help people experience the same freedom. So that's really, in a nutshell, my walk. But we could talk all day about my story, but you could find that on the website. But I love to give your viewers some tips, because I know probably folks are wondering about how to use these precious plant-based compounds. They always ask me those questions.
Yep. Yeah, it's amazing what looking through a different lens, the biblical lens, will do to you, for sure. And on that note, I'm curious. Let's jump into essential oils in just a minute. But as far as how your faith influences some of your health habits, how does it influence your diet in general? Even within the natural health community, there's so many differing opinions. Meat or no meat, dairy or no dairy, is a little bit of alcohol okay? Can you not have any alcohol? Gluten, no gluten, all that. How do you take all that, and I'm sure view it through a biblical lens to make some decisions there?
One thing I recognize, and I didn't know what it was at first, but we are all created uniquely in God's image. And the medical term for that is biochemical individuality. We all have essentially a genetic blueprint. Like, we're all like snowflakes. No two snowflakes are the same. And so what I'm really inspired by is to find what works for me, which is quite different. In fact, what's different than my wife, which is challenging, I will tell you, because my wife and I eat differently. And so what does that look like for family meal times? And what does that look like for our children? Because we know what works for each other. And so what it comes down to, that this one-size-fits-all approach to health is just the most nonsensical, unbiblical approach, period. It just doesn't make sense. Whether it's paleo, whether it's keto, whether it's whatever you want to call it, if it works for you, sweet. But you know what? Those don't work for me. What works for me is the Dr. Z approach, because I have created it, blood, sweat, and tears, because I know after doing things that worked, after doing things that doesn't work, I know. So at the end of the day, the verse really that motivates me is my body is a temple of the Holy Spirit. I need to take care of it. That is the overarching principle for everything that I do with my health, which means this: there's no such thing as all things in moderation. That's like a lie from the pit of hell. Meaning this: sugar, what's that mean? Heroin, what's that mean? Narcotics, what's that mean? Cigarette smoke, what's that mean? Are we just going to have a little bit of moderation in those things? No, I treat all addictive, harmful substances in the same way. I treat sugar like I treat heroin. I treat, because I used to do those kinds of drugs. I know how addictive they are. I know how destructive they are. And so for me, being an addict, used to being an alcoholic, used to smoke, I can't drink. Like, I literally can't do a glass of wine at dinner. It's just not my makeup, because my makeup is going to want to have a whole bottle. And so for me, I don't subscribe to drunkenness. I just rather be clean in that way. And I have some research to show that alcohol is actually maybe not so healthy for you as people might think. So for me, no alcohol. I like caffeine. I really do. Here's my matcha green tea. I love drinking this stuff. I love that stimulant. I love the natural perk of energy it gives me. But when it comes down to it, I know what works for me, and I know what's going to help me not fall back into old habits that can be very destructive. But I do not take the moderation approach. I try to focus on healthy, life-giving foods and very much a plant-based diet. And so, a little bit of meat here and there, raw dairy once in a while. But at the end of the day, lots of fruits, lots of plants, lots of grains. I love my grains. You just got to choose what's good for you and the right ones.
And the sugar's even more addictive than the cocaine, as they found in some studies.
It is. It's horrible. If I were president As my dad says, if I were king of the world, I would outlaw sugar. I would make it illegal. People don't realize how absolutely destructive it is. It's like the number one cause, in my opinion, of cancer, diabetes, metabolic syndrome. What's the disorders that are annihilating people, literally kids, ADHD, autism. We could link all of this together. It's the worst thing. Now, I'm talking white processed sugar. I'm talking maltodextrin. I'm not talking honey. I'm not discussing here. We're not talking about the natural sweeteners that are in, God's creation. But when you take the sugar cane and process it in an unnatural way to make this white crystalline powder, that's poison, folks. And you don't get it. It's slow poison. And anyway, and having an addictive personality like myself, I know what it's like to get off of sugar. And it was rough. It was rough. It was not easy. But it was the best thing that I ever did. Was the best thing. So anyway, it's in everything, folks. And you got to think about that. If there's one food that's in virtually all of our processed food, look at your ketchup, look at your processed whatever it might be. The non-sugar solutions aren't any better. They're not. And we could go into all these different things. But I've noticed, by and large, for the first thing we do when we work with people, when we typically coach them and help them cleanse and restore and do the things, we get them off the sugar. And it's the most challenging but most rewarding things they experience, for sure, without a shadow of a doubt.
So I know you have your Beat Cancer God's Way program on the website, which I'm very, very interested to check out. As long as we're talking about sugar, what are your thoughts on cancer and God-given whole food sugar, from be it fruits or carrot juice or honey or so on and so forth, when it comes to trying to overcome a cancer diagnosis?
Yeah, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. And you look at people like Chris Wark, our mutual buddy, who beat cancer. Chris beat cancer God's way. And I can only recommend going to chrisbeatcancer.com, folks. Brilliant man, good buddy of mine. He beat cancer with fresh fruits, fresh veggies. He used whole grains, and he just knocked this thing in its pants. And he's sharing this thing. He's sharing the message with the world. We got to remember, these are foods that God gave us, and it's not a matter. Here's a problem: people have lumped the word sugar together to mean anything sweet. Now, there's a completely different viewpoint how the body metabolizes natural carbohydrates that are in fruits and vegetables and grains versus how the body can't truly metabolize white processed sugar. It just can't. Or high fructose corn syrup, or even agave and all these other fake sweeteners out there. So it's part of the diet, man. And the Gershon therapy and other therapies, they juice like mass amounts of fruits and vegetables. And so it's just a matter of, I guess at the end of the day, it's a matter of getting the nutrients that we need to feed the immune system to fight this thing. And if we're synthetically giving our body these nutrients, it'll never do the same thing. I mean, I'm a huge, huge advocate against multivitamins and these junk solutions that your body can't truly metabolize this pill with so-called vitamins and minerals. And it's just literally, folks, you're peeing and you're pooping it out. You're wasting your money. You can only get this stuff truly in fruits and vegetables. Yes, supplementation, key supplementation, targeted supplementation can be wise, but there are very few supplements I even take, like very, very few. And again, going back to Chris, it's kind of interesting because the way that I eat is very similar to the way that God led Chris eat as well to overcome cancer. It's just, I see a trend. I see a trend of people who are willing to have an open mind and prayerfully consider what to do and not getting stuck in these hype diets, because that really leads people astray.
Yeah, no, it certainly does, and that's interesting. You say that about the multivitamin. More and more, I've been kind of pivoting towards opting for maybe a variety of superfoods as a quote unquote 100%. Supplement, as opposed to trying to get it all in with a multivitamin, something like that.
Yeah. Oh. Think of it this way, Ryan, and this is what I tell people too. Going back to Chris, I know this isn't the Chris show, but I love this guy. Seriously, what he did, God gave him a vision. of like, look, you're gonna, all he felt comfortable with was making this. And again, I'm paraphrasing. I know you interviewed him, so go back to the interview.
Yeah.
But he made this big salad, right? Like every day he ate this huge salad with all these fruits and vegetables or all the ingredients. But think of it, there are only like 15 or 20 ingredients in that salad. Folks, when you eat a meal, what's the most amount of ingredients you can have in that? Let's say you have a salad with like 15 different, let's say you get really aggressive and get all kinds of fruits and vegetables. And then you might have a piece of meat, or maybe you have some bread or potatoes or whatever. You only get like 20 ingredients in there. Like that's a lot of different kind of different chemicals in these foods for your body to process. And your body can do it. When you get this multivitamin, you have hundreds of ingredients, hundreds of plant-based compounds, especially these whole food things. These super green powders, the same thing. I think it's a waste of money, because how can your body process 200-300 little ingredients in this little, even if it's in a powder form? You're not getting the biggest bang for your buck. Like me, I actually have a super green powder, but it's only 13 ingredients. I make it myself. I get a pound of spirulina, a pound of chlorella, a pound of bee pollen, a pound of maca, a pound of noni. I get all these superfoods. I mix it together, and I get a huge heaping spoonful. But I only get, think of the serving size. So at the end of the day, I'm trying to think, okay, how do I make this natural lifestyle and incorporate this with this supplement fad? In a sense, that's all that it is. And at the end of the day, you're never ever going to eat a meal with 200 ingredients. It just doesn't exist. And so why would you supplement your body that way? Why would you put a 200 ingredient protein powder, super green powder mixture into your smoothie? It doesn't make sense. So again, a lot of things that we do, we save a lot of time and money. Like Ryan, I literally make 1 year's worth of super green powder for like $200. 1 year. I go to nuts.com, best website on the planet. I go to nuts.com. I get all organic powders. I make them for myself, and boom, I get a much more concentrated spirulina versus just a couple parts per billion in that huge, Anyway, that's a whole other topic. But when it comes to it, it's all this concept of supplementation. People are addicted to supplements. They're addicted to protein powders. They're addicted to these things. If Dr. So-and-so says it, they're buying it. And I'm seeing a lot of people waste a lot of money. And Ryan, the first thing I do when I work with people is get them off of like 99% of supplements. I've worked with people with $700 to $1,000 supplement regimens a month. Come on.
Well,
what a waste of money.
Yeah.
It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart.
That's how we've been the last couple of years, and the more I learn, the more we're paring a lot of stuff back and making a little more strategic decisions there. So yeah, this is right in line with kind of where we're at. I didn't know nuts.com had the powders and stuff, but
awesome.
I got to check those guys out.
I know. I wish I were affiliate. I'd be making millions, because I refer everyone to those people. But folks, yeah, if you really want to do it yourself, and that's one thing. I don't know if you guys can see my garden. You probably can't. I should show you my garden. But we have a 40 by 20 foot garden. We try to DIY everything we can as much as possible. It's why we like essential oils so much, because we make our own soaps and lotions and things like that, our own hand sanitizers and cleaners, and we try to do as much as we can. It's very cost effective, because the one thing, and I'm sure you get this too, it's too expensive. I can't afford to live this way. Yeah, you're right. If you're going to buy organic bananas and avocados and everything at the store. But if you could grow some stuff yourself, make your own processed things like the powders, like the snacks that we do, you could truly afford this lifestyle. It doesn't have to break the bank.
Yeah, no, it actually becomes less expensive once you start making all this stuff for yourself. Indeed.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you said it, essential oils. What are essential oils? Where do they come from? How are they made? Essential oils,
I call them God's medicine. There's a scripture in the Bible that says the leaves of the trees are for the healing of the nations. Revelation 22:2. I don't know of any other scripture, any other verse of any sacred book on the planet that epitomizes what essential oils are. It's healing. God gave these plants chemicals, and they are chemicals. God gave these plants chemicals to protect the plant from outside vectors like flies and bees and predators, viruses, bacteria, fungi. God gave these plants the medicine, the antioxidants, the the healing solutions to what the plant would need to do to overcome infections, to bring health and healing. And what we've been able to do is extract these. There are little ducts in the plants. And not only plants, we're talking roots. We're talking trees, bark, resin. You know, when you tap a tree like a maple syrup or a maple tree, you get the syrup. Same thing with frankincense and myrrh. You tap those trees, you get a resin. If you distill that, if you steam distill it, if you have a citrus, if you cold press it, if you express it and get the oil from the citrus rind, you get the essential oil. And essential oil are lipid-philic hydrophobic, meaning they love fat, but they hate water, plant-based compounds. They're volatile. Volatile is key to understanding what they are and what they're not, because they evaporate readily. So when you steam distill a plant, when you steam distill a root or steam distill a bark, like cinnamon bark, then the volatile organic compounds will separate from the non-volatile organic compounds. And when you condense it back into a liquid, you got the oil and water and they separate. That's really what they are. They are alcohols and terpenes, and they're chemicals like sesquiterpenes and things that pass the blood-brain barrier that we learn about in chemistry class. There's no nutritional value in them. They're not necessary or essential for life. They're actually secondary plant metabolites, which is interesting because this is, and I'll end with this because I've gotten really in depth with this as I've written my book, but a primary metabolite is glucose. What is the purpose of photosynthesis? Why do plants do photosynthesis? Is to create glucose so we and all of animal and plant and all of basically existence can live. Without glucose, we die. There is no life on this planet. Well, essential oils are the secondary effect. It's the secondary metabolite of photosynthesis. So even though they're not essential to human or animal plant life, I don't think of anything else that I would consider essential to my medicine cabinet, because to wrap it all together, what do you think most of our medicines are based off of? The chemical compounds that are in these essential oils. So whether it's aspirin or whether it's even some cancer fighting properties like D-limonene and other chemicals that we know of, these chemicals have been isolated, synthetically mimicked, and now they're in our medicines. So in my opinion, I'd rather get the real deal because the body can metabolize it much better than these fake medicines and over-the-counters that you get. But same thing like menthol, eucalyptus, Vicks VapoRub. Where do you think they got all this stuff from? Right? The essential oils.
Why not just go to the real thing? When
Yep.
you say lipid-philic, is that how you say that?
Yeah, lipid-philic, fat-loving.
Yeah. So I imagine that helps the compounds make their way into the cell,
Yep.
similar to the explanation behind, say, like a liposomal technology supplement, something like
100%.
that, right?
100%, which is why research actually suggests that using essential oils in conjunction with chemotherapy helps chemotherapy be more effective. So people that are actually, that's a truly integrative approach, folks, working with an integrative oncologist who understands what she or he is doing so they can use essential oils to help the drugs perform better. I'm not a proponent of drugs, but I'm saying for those people who do choose that route, do not discount the power of plant-based therapies like essential oils. Same thing with probiotics and enzymes. Essential oils have been helped to make probiotics and enzymes more effective. And we mentioned sesquiterpenes crossing the blood-brain barrier, and you hit it on the head. Lipophilic, you need something to be able to cross that phospholipid membrane around the cell. Otherwise, it's just going to hit. And that's the problem with most drugs, folks, because your cell membrane is surrounded by fat. There's so much fat in our body. There's so much cholesterol. It protects us. And when you have a drug or a therapy or even a water-based supplement that doesn't have a proper, like a vitamin C, perfect example, why you need a liposomal technology to penetrate the cell. Basically, it doesn't get in the cell, and it's just you end up, again, peeing or pooping it out, or you get toxic buildup in your liver, your kidneys, or in your fat cells because your body it doesn't know what to do with this stuff.
So I actually did have that question for you planned for a little later on. Could you expand a little bit on using essential oils in conjunction with chemotherapy, both to mitigate side effects potentially and potentially make it more effective, do a better job of killing the cancer and whatnot?
Yeah, and just like I mentioned, in conjunction with chemotherapy, I have to defer to your oncologist if you are on chemotherapy or your pharmacist. I would encourage you folks I would really encourage you, especially working with people and having friends and family members with open-minded and closed-minded medical professionals. 9 times out of 10, unless you're, for some reason, you're really trapped because of finances or insurance, you have a choice. And as you hire or fire someone, if you own a business, you could hire and fire your doctor. You need to work with a medical professional that understands what they're doing and you feel comfortable with. So if you go to your medical professional and say, hey, I'm interested in using essential oils, and their first response is, no, that stuff's not good for you, I would think very much twice whether or not you want to work with that person anymore, because they need to understand stuff. And I know that they don't get this in school. Neither did I. I didn't get this in chiropractic college. I didn't get this in public health school. I had to learn it on my own. I had to go to aromatherapy school. But you know what? You work with an integrative oncologist. I think that's so key. And with that said, there's a variety of different methods you could use. Topical application, internal application. Again, I want to refer to your integrative pharmacist, integrative oncologist to make sure there's no negative drug interactions. Outside of the therapeutic effect of the actual chemo, unbelievable relief when it comes to essential oils with the symptoms. And this is something I almost don't care what a doctor says. Like, come on, how do you not say someone can diffuse a lavender or a citrus oil to promote sleep or a healthy mood? So when it comes to the side effects, whether it's indigestion, nausea, headache, whatever it might be, even cachexia. I mean, there are certain oils that can actually help you with appetite. So it gives you a more robust appetite. Because you know what happens to people on chemo and radiation. They just waste away. Oftentimes they're not hungry and their immune system is shot. So there's so much that you could do, folks. And to me, at the end of the day, I would like to bring us back. And I didn't mention this, and I'm sorry, I should have mentioned this earlier. Really, the purpose of essential oils isn't another outside-in approach. I'm not trying to say essential oils are like medicine, like your typical antibiotic or even your supplement. Essential oils help the body create harmony. The essential oils help, literally, they've been proven, create homeostasis in the body. Essential oils give your body what it needs to heal itself. And that's key. Not to think about essential oils as, oh, it's another drug I have to take because I'm beating a disease. But no, using it temporarily to help your body overcome something so you don't have to. My purpose is not so people can be on essential oil therapy their whole life. What's the difference? You're a slave to a drug, you're a slave to a supplement, you're a slave to an oil. That's not the point. The point is to use it to bring healing. And so that is what I see when it comes down to it. Symptom-based management. Essential oils are second to none. I mean, really, because there's virtually no side effects if you use them properly. So you could use your acetaminophen, you could use your NSAIDs, you could use a painkiller if you're in pain as a cancer patient, or you could use a topical application of, let's say, marjoram or peppermint or some other very powerful basil pain-killing essential oils. And that's what I recommend, is so to replace the harmful outside-in approach for symptoms, but also to always remember, it's about giving the body what it needs to heal, because we're looking at root cause resolution. We're not looking at another Band-Aid.
You mentioned a couple things there. I've heard you mention essential oils being a tool to bring about homeostasis on a couple other interviews. I know you mentioned a couple particular oils that have actually had some research behind them there. Anything coming to mind as far as particular oils we look at?
Oh yeah, sandalwood and ylang ylang. More research on ylang ylang, and this is what's wild about ylang ylang. It's wild because it doesn't make common sense to a lot of us in the scientific community, because it actually balances conflicting measures. So, for example, blood pressure and pulse rate. So typically, when your blood pressure rises, your pulse rate will rise too. They go together. Well, if someone has high blood pressure and low pulse rate, using ylang ylang can balance them both. It shouldn't. It should make them more separate, if you think of it that way. That sort of research just makes you think, wow, it could actually balance conflicting physiological measures. Well, it doesn't do anything, really, to the measures. It helps your body find a homeostasis. And there's a number of reasons why, and I can't even pretend to make up the reason why, because we don't know. There's just, at the end of the day, we don't know. We don't know why a lot of the things do what they do. And there is a lifetime worth of research for all of us.
So speaking of that, I've always been, I guess a question I've always wondered is, I'm the first guy to start digging into studies and all that, but studies in PubMed have only been around for so long. Frankincense and myrrh go back to Jesus and before, and people knew that these things were good. How have we as humans known what these things are, how they work, why they work, or maybe not why they work, but do you have any insight on that? How why have we known about essential oils for so long without any of this research behind it?
I think it all goes down to the instinct that God gave us, man. I think God gave us an instinct. We're created in his image. I believe that means a lot of different things. And one thing I think that means is that we have eternal life within us. I mean, like, we are created to be eternal. And it wasn't until, if you believe the biblical story, Adam and Eve ate the fruit, that they ended up dying. And so they were designed to be in the garden forever. And when you look at history, when you look at ancient cultures, not only that, but look at cultures that have been least touched by civilization as we know it today, you see what they do. They just go off of instinct. They go off of trial and error. They see what's in the back. They see what the animals are eating. And I just think that over time, over whatever it is that you believe, thousands or millions of years as human civilization, people have just stumbled upon these things. But I do believe there's a lot of credit to be given to God by our spirit-led common sense. And I think we all have that. And I don't know about you all, but sometimes I'm led by common sense. I'm led by instinct. I'm led by intuition more than I'm led by a book. And then we're finding science is confirming what people's intuition and common sense have shared for so many years. But why and how, I don't know. Like, what made Hippocrates really look at food the way that they did, and what did people, they've been doing this stuff forever, because there's always been sickness. There's always been disease after the garden, and they've always been trying to find solutions to this stuff. And it's kind of wild if you think of it, but human civilization, people by nature are unbelievably gifted at invention. And it goes back again. Who's our creator? He invented us. He invented the world, and we're created in his image. So the more that I tap into my spiritual roots, the more I recognize that all the creative genius of God's within us. So I think a lot of it goes off of that.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. That's where my research has been this whole time, is just kind of getting feelings on things and gut instincts and whatnot, and then going to the research to try to confirm it, and oh, what do you know? It's all there, and but then where did that gut feeling or that instinct come from in the first place? Ryan,
go ahead. If I could say something that's so important, I hope everyone gets. Is that, and that's really the purpose, the whole point of my Beat Cancer God's Way class that you mentioned before, is just, it has to be in line with who you are. Everything that we do, folks, don't just do paleo or keto or use essential oils or do anything because someone tells you to. Just don't listen to your doctor immediately and just say, okay, doctor, I'll do whatever it is. It has to align. It has to make sense in your heart, your mind. It has to feel right in your spirit. And I'm telling you, you have every right in the world to question and to ask. And that's one thing that I'm finding myself do more, because a lot of people are afraid. They feel insecure. They don't feel adequate enough to question. And you have it in you, folks. You really do. You really do.
So speaking of beating cancer and the research, I know you have to be somewhat delicate about this topic, but what are some of the specific oils you found to have, say the most anti-cancer research behind them?
Yeah, and one thing it's really important to recognize, folks, when it comes to the truth about essential oils and cancer, is that most, like by far, all the research is in vitro, cells in a petri dish, or they are animal studies. We have virtually no studies at this point. As far as I know, no long-term cohort, no long-term random controlled trials on humans, especially large studies. And so it's really important to keep in mind, just because it works in a petri dish or on an animal doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work on humans. So that's a disclaimer.
Same disclaimer for any supplement or natural compound you read about. Yeah.
And drugs. People don't realize,
and drugs.
But most drugs you use are kind of pushed through the system. They're not tested for 20, 30, 50 years, and you don't know.
Yeah.
Yes, they get the fast track, and it's not hard to get a drug push through if you got enough money. So remember that too. We just don't have big pockets in the essential oil world like Big Pharma does. So when it comes to the research, the most prominent oils that really are standing out more and more are the oils that are high in D-limonene. D-limonene is a fantastic cancer-fighting chemical that is first in wild orange or sweet orange. It's in orange essential oil. Like up to 95% of orange oil has D-limonene, depending on the species and the brand that you buy. All depends. And all the oils, all the citrus oils have a good quality of D-limonene. There are other essential oils. I'm sure you've heard this all the time, frankincense. Frankincense is kind of controversial in the research world, but I'm telling you, I just interviewed a friend of ours who used frankincense, myrrh, and lemongrass, and she's literally curing herself of stage 4 non-small cell lung cancer, and her tumor on the side, like the size of a golf ball, is just shrunk. They can't find the cancer in the lungs anymore. It's not in the brain anymore. She could see again. She could walk again. Her life, she was left to die literally 4 months ago because her platelets were so low and her blood counts, and her doctor's like, we can't give you any more chemo. We're done. And basically told her husband, you got to prepare. Do whatever you could do. And if you want to check it out, folks, go to my website, drericz.com. It's on my Biblical Health Radio podcast. Powerful story. But frankincense, you've heard a lot about. But here's a fun thing about frankincense. Research has shown, I say fun because it's a great story, because frankincense, gold, and myrrh, and the Magi, and Jesus, and birth, myrrh has actually been shown to be more effective at killing cancer than frankincense. And so it's interesting because frankincense is the popular one.
Yeah.
You don't hear as much about myrrh. But there are a lot of oils. Other ones we could list really quickly are lemongrass, specifically breast cancer lines, which makes sense because it's been a traditional women's health herb. Clary sage, very effective at breast cancer that we've seen in vitro. Black pepper is also good for in vitro. Clove is one of the most highest antioxidant-rich essential oils, very good for cancer, very good for boosting the immune system. Virtually anything to help the immune system. This isn't, again, about targeting the cancer cell, which it does. Actually, it can. It literally can target the cancer. Like our friends who are applying, diluted frankincense, myrrh, and lemongrass over their tumor. But if it could help the body boost the immune system, add antioxidant power, then that in and of itself can help the body fight cancer. So there's a number of them, but those are just a few that really stand out. And sandalwood, I should remember that one because there's been some good research. Sandalwood and frankincense actually kill cancer in different ways. They're actually looking at the mechanisms, like how exactly do these oils work? Way beyond me, folks. Like this is beyond my scope of expertise, and I'm assuming way beyond you, different pathways and things neurologically and in the blood system. But at the end of the day, they work differently. So if you do, you might want to consider, if you're trying to battle cancer, using a blend. Blends work very, very well. Frankincense and myrrh, sandalwood, ylang ylang. These are really good oils to start off with. Always dilute, because you don't want to burn your skin, and it actually helps the oils be more effective, and you save money too.
So you touched on killing cancer cells and building up the immune system. I'm always, when I research cancer, as far as the cause, the primary upstream driver, the thing that went wrong in your body, within the alternative natural health space, it seems that you can boil most theories down into either epigenetics, mitochondrial, or microbial, like a bacterial or parasitical infection. Do you know of any research, or do you have anything else to say about essential oils influencing gene expression? That's something I'm curious about. I haven't looked into too much myself.
We have a minimal. There actually is research on that. When it comes to gene expression, when it comes to epigenetics, anything, and this is the brilliance about epigenetics, anything can turn on or turn off certain genetic expression. And we can't forget thoughts, can't forget trauma, we can't forget emotions, we can't forget our outside and all the extra, like I'm outside, but you know what, it's still polluted out here. I try to live in a very clean environment, but we live in such a harmful environment all across the board that everything around us, really everything around us is just dying. And you can just see the life cycle. And we are slowly dying from the day that we're born, slowly dying to when we die. It's not a defeatist mindset. And I don't say this to be negative and doom and gloom, but to recognize that the battle is from outside to prevent as much as possible. So when it comes down to it, do we know? The question maybe is, do we know which essential oils can trigger certain genes? No, we don't. But we do know that they have an effect, just like everything else. And so my message to people, and the insight I believe God's given me on this whole topic, is anything we could do that's positive, anything we know that is positive, will have an ultimate positive epigenetic effect on our body. It will help our body express. And so what does that mean? Emotional detoxification. What does that mean? Counseling. What does that mean? Prayer, meditation. That means minimizing all outside toxins as much as possible from the food and from the chemicals that we put on our skin. And I'll tell you something. We don't know exactly how it works or what it does, but we know from people, again, like Chris Wark and others who've healed themselves of cancer, like my friend Yvonne, who's healing of cancer, it will change your body. And so I wish we had more specifics, but it's fun to say that we are at the ground level. Like, this is grassroots of doing things scientifically that people have known since the beginning of time that they've just done instinctually. Why witch doctors and medicine doctors and natural healers and tribal cultures have been doing this stuff forever. And we're just trying to figure out why.
Yeah, no, you can. It's funny. You can geek out on all the different the pathways and switches and what turns on and what turns off. But at the end of the day, it's if you put more good stuff in, that's going to be favorable, and if you get the bad stuff out, that's going to be favorable, and vice versa. So it's pretty simple
Ryan,
when it comes down to it.
It is, and you know what? I encourage people. Here's my suspicion. I can't prove it, and I won't know on this side of heaven. But I don't think we're ever going to know this stuff. I think God has created us in such a way that we are seekers. Like he actually says, he's put eternity in our hearts. I think we as people are always going to question. We're always going to seek out, and we are never going to figure this out. Folks, just like I think 3 or 4 years ago, literally I forget when it was, but 3 or 4 years ago, anatomists literally found a new lymphatic vessel in the body. Like, I thought we mapped out the human body. Like, they're finding new parts of the body that they didn't even know existed. Like, are you kidding me? This was such a big deal at school. I was in chiropractic college at the time. I remember our anatomist saying, they just found something new. Like, yeah, you're going to continue finding something new. You're never going to map this genome. You're never going to figure us out. Because if we did, what's the point? So anyway, as much as it is fun, to me, I guess my take-home message is this. I'm trying to figure out enough to hack the system so we can be healthy. But when it comes down to it, all this is mainly academic. And if we know the overall, like you said, you hit the nail on the head, Ryan. You just got to do more good than bad, and you're going to have a better result. There's no way of truly figuring out the magic bullet.
We're already coming up on the end here. I did want to get a couple things really quick. So the method of application. You got topical. You have internal. You have aromatherapy. Is there any way a good rule of thumb for what method is going to be the best? Is it a part of the body you're targeting? Is it based on ailment? It's probably, you could go on all day about something like that.
Yeah.
But
the answer is yes. The answer is yes. Yes. Just yes. It's a lot. It's a lot, and it's a lot to take in, and it's about step by step. I don't want to overwhelm people. I literally have created courses around this stuff. And so I'm in the middle right now of creating the 101. It's a 10-module course. And the first section is going to be a 3-module course that people can get. It literally goes module 1, inhalation, module 2, topical, module 3, internal. And we're going to go into those details. So yes, the answer is it all depends. And there's a variety of ways. And I just want to remind people to just remember, these are very concentrated plant-based compounds. Don't use them willy-nilly. They truly deserve your respect, not only for their healing ability, but also for the negative potential side effects if you don't use them wisely. Meaning this, yes, they're natural, but you're not going to go into an orange grove and see a pool of orange essential oil or lavender essential oil in the lavender field. They're not natural as you might think they are. You have to extract them. And it takes literally 40 lemons to extract the oil to get just one bottle of essential oil. It takes like 30 pounds of lavender. 30 pounds of lavender flowers just to get a little itty bitty bottle of lavender. So think of it. A little goes a long way. Safety first. And I would encourage everyone before they jumping into stuff, do a little homework. Like I literally have spent 3 years. And I know that's not a lot for a lot of people, but we're talking pretty much full-time work. 3 years on this study, teaching it, learning it. Because I'm going to aromatherapy school too. Like I've gotten trained in this. Like I just not, hey, I'm going to figure this out on my own. It's that important. I've seen so many dramatic results for people. So I have all the resources on my website if you want to get started. I have an aromatherapy 101 article. I have top 10 uses. I have all these different things. I have a free club. I would like everyone invite everyone to join. I have a free membership that gives you access to all of my articles, all of my DIY stuff, all in a special member website that you have everything at the click of a button lined out for you. Start there. Start going step by step by step, and you're going to be very much empowered. But like everything, and this is the end, I guess, my end encouragement and challenge. You know, folks, I've been living this way for 15 years, ever since I've been a Christian, almost 15 years now. And essential oils are relatively new. I've been using them really steadily for about 3 years now and studying them. But my whole holistic lifestyle has been 15 years in the making. And I plan on learning more and changing, and I continue to tweak things. And I'm only 37 years old. So think of it as a journey. Think of it as a process. And be patient with yourself. And you're not going to figure everything out today. It's not meant to be. And so I want to, again, encourage you all just to enjoy what you have and be good students, because it will pay off in the long run.
Well, I'm looking forward to that course. I'll certainly link to it in the show notes of this episode when it comes out. When did you say we can expect that?
It's actually going to be out in May 2017. Oh, wow. Yeah, so it's coming out. I'm in the midst of recording, similar to what Chris did for his Square One program. We're just be doing a lot of videos. I'll be doing more PowerPoint because my stuff is a little more technical, and I'll be doing demo videos and PDFs and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, it's going to be your one-stop shop, like all you need, because I've gotten asked so many times from people. And so my articles are good. People love them, but they really need something a little more digestible, and just click here and watch. Let's go through the journey together. I love e-courses. They're such a great tool.
Yeah, no, I gobble them up. All right, last question that everyone gets asked. If you had to boil everything you know, down into 3 golden rules on how to stay healthy and disease-free, what would those rules be?
That's a good question. The golden rule to me, first, is to truly recognize that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit. You have to be convicted, and you have to be accountable. And with that, you will make the right decisions. Believing it, and believing that you are the only one responsible for your health, that is key. Not your doctor, not your spouse, not your parents, not your kids. You are responsible for your health. And that right there, that empowerment, will push you beyond your comfort level to do things that you never thought were possible. So first is accountability, to recognize truly what your body is and who you're accountable to. And you're accountable to God for your health. And next, you need to be a good student. Test all things. There's a scripture verse that says, test all things and hold fast to what's true. Don't just do anything just because Dr. So-and-so says it. You have to. Again, why? Because you're accountable. And at the end of the day, when you're at the pearly gates and God says, why did you do this? You can't say, well, my doctor told me, my mom told me, and why my wife told me. I can't say that. So I truly believe that you are gifted and you have everything that you need. And it doesn't matter if you're not a doctor, doesn't matter if you're not a quote professional, you're brilliant. You have God's creative genius within you by virtue of being a human being, created in his likeness. So test all things, be accountable, and third, do what you know is right and don't waver. That's it.
I like it. I certainly agree with everything you just said, and that's probably a good place to wrap it up. Dr. Z, where can everyone list off the website and the social media, wherever you would direct people to get more information for you?
Yes, please go to drericz.com. That's drericz.com, and everything's there. You could follow me on Facebook and follow me on Twitter, and join. You'll see a link for a free club. Join my membership. You'll get all the resources that you need to get started with essential oils, and keep a lookout for everything, for my book, for my courses. A lot of information coming out about oils, folks.
Dr. Z, thanks again.
Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it. It's an honor.
And that, my friends, is why we love Dr. Z. Hopefully what it means to look at health from a biblical viewpoint is a little clearer to you now, and you got some great ideas for all the healing possibilities God has provided us in essential oils. If it was indeed helpful to you, please pass it on. You never know whose life you're going to change simply by doing your part to spread this information. And this episode lives at mykidcurescancer.com/Eric-Zielinski. I should probably spell Zielinski for you. That would be Zielenski. Zielinski. That might even be harder than Sternagel. That's also where you can get the detailed summary article for this episode, along with our thoughts on how the information applies to childhood cancer and links to all resources that were brought up during the interview, especially his Beat Cancer God's Way course. If what Eric said resonated with you and you want to know how to make this be the way that you beat cancer, online courses in general are awesome and a great investment, and this one in particular is really great. And I know he's got a cool free webinar along the same line, so we'll be sure to throw that link in as well. Lastly, if the show has been helpful to you, first, we're very, very glad to hear that. That is what this is all about. And second, while we love making it available to listen to for free, and it always will be, I do need to let you know that it is certainly not free to put out. We actually just had to upgrade our server due to the amount of traffic we're getting on the site now, just to keep everything up and running for you, and that was a good 3 times as much as we were paying before. Just as a small example, if you do feel led to help with some of these costs with a monthly donation of your choosing, $1, $5, $10, whatever the case may be, we certainly wouldn't argue, and every little bit does really help. You can find out how to do that at mykidcurescancer.com/crowd-sponsor. Crowd sponsors all one word. Lord willing, we'll be back next week with Razzie Berry, where we'll be talking all things taking charge of your own health, including how to assemble the best care team for you, so be sure to be back on Monday for that one. Music was provided by the Fat Rat and Tasty Network, and all production and editing was done by my beautiful bride, Teddy Sternagel. This is Ryan Sternagel wishing you and your family good health. Until next week, God bless and Godspeed.